Legend of Total War here, and today we're doing another Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires campaign review, this time covering Repanse. So Repanse starts her campaign over at Kofa, which is the same start location she had in Total War Warhammer 2 Mortal Empires, which is in the northern part of Araby on the southern continent. And her initial enemy is the Strigos Empire, a minor vampire count faction, which is the same enemy that she had in Total War Warhammer 2 Mortal Empires. Now, taking these guys out in Warhammer 3 is a lot quicker than it was in Warhammer 2 because this whole area, the entirety of the southern continent, is significantly more condensed, so the time to get to these settlements is significantly reduced. See, Repanse in Mortal Empires in Warhammer 2, it took her several turns to get to these settlements, whereas in Warhammer 3 it's just not the case. Taking these guys out is very easy, which is a common theme across all the legendary lords in this game. After you've taken out the Strigos Empire, it is most likely that you're going to end up at war with the followers of Nagash, since they are probably going to take out the Knights of the Flame on turn 1, and after they've done that, they really only border you or these ogres down here, and they're most likely going to declare war on you because you have very poor relations with them, and the AI is very much prone to declaring war on you, even if they only slightly dislike you. So taking out Archon the Black as quickly as possible is definitely a good objective to have, because he does start off with 2 armies and you don't want to give him the time to recruit those units, but luckily your units are superior to his as long as you're recruiting knightly units from Kofa itself. You get access to Knights Errant, and he basically shouldn't stand a chance with you on the field of battle. So taking out Archon early is definitely the way to go. After that, you can do whatever you want. The Greybeard's Prospectors are potential friends. You've got a mission to get one of your banners from the Greybeard's Prospectors by getting a trade agreement with them, and there's some various other missions around to get some fairly minor banners. It's entirely up to you if you want to bother with it. And then after that, it's not a particularly difficult campaign. The undead absolutely hate you, but you've got a fair few friends in this area here now, because, well, Thegan's Errantry, the Knights of the Flame, and the Knights of Arrigo have always been there, but you've also got Volkmar the Grim down here. So that being said, you've also got Manfred von Carstein down here, so it's an interesting start position for sure, but I don't think this is a particularly difficult campaign. It's definitely a fun campaign though. Now, one thing with Repanse that I noticed between Warhammer 2 and Warhammer 3 is that she doesn't start off with any knowledge of Lyonesse over here, whereas previously she was at least able to get like a trade agreement with them, which allowed you to establish relations and then get a confederation, so you didn't actually have to send anyone back to Bretonnia in order to own Bretonnia eventually, whereas in Warhammer 3 you are going to have to send some people back and meet the Bretonnian factions, the mainland ones, to confederate them if you want. She doesn't have the ability to just instantly confederate them through her tech tree. You actually need to get good relations and then wait for that magic confederation symbol to become available, which sometimes can take a fair bit of time to wait for the right conditions to occur. So confederations with Repanse is more difficult than it was in Warhammer 2. Now, in terms of her main campaign mechanics, she's got some pretty interesting stat boosts in her Damsel of War stat. You know, control +3 all provinces, always good, especially on higher difficulties, having that extra control. Reduce upkeep cost -50% for embedded heroes. This is especially good for Bretonnian factions since they don't have supply lines, which means the upkeep cost of these heroes never increases despite recruiting more armies. So getting a spam of paladins is extremely cost effective playing as Repanse. At an extra 8 melee defense for questing knights is definitely good, because these guys here they should be used as shock cavalry, but they're also melee cavalry, so they're okay to leave in combat, prolonged combat for a bit. So extra 8 melee defense is definitely good for them. And then of course you've got really bad relations with Vampire Counts, Vampire Coasts, and Tomb Kings, which I'd say doesn't really matter that much. You want to be fighting them. Her main campaign objective is hunting down the undead, and that is reflected in her final mission as well, either going after Vampire Coast or the Tomb Kings. It's entirely up to you. Now, in terms of her other main campaign mechanic that sort of sets her apart from the other Bretonnian lords is water. Now, it's a very weak mechanic, and it was weak in Warhammer 2, but in Warhammer 3 it's practically useless because of the way that attrition works in Warhammer 3. Now, I'm sure most of you guys don't even realize that there was a change to how attrition is calculated in Warhammer 3, but it's pretty significant for Repanse. You see, in Warhammer 2, when you traversed over certain types of attrition, namely like desert attrition, mountain attrition, snow attrition, whenever you moved across that territory, you would lose troops as you were moving across it. But in Warhammer 3, that doesn't happen anymore. You only lose troops if you end your turn on that attrition territory. So, since the Southlands continent is significantly more condensed, where you are able to move from one settlement to another, you don't really ever spend any time sitting on a desert attrition. And even though you might traverse over a desert every now and again, as long as you don't end that turn there, you don't ever really need the water mechanic. So you get water by simply going into a settlement and you get 5 turns of immunity to desert attrition. It's also completely useless to everywhere that isn't a desert. So it's a mechanic that has just kind of become kind of outdated. It's just, you're very rarely ever gonna make any serious use out of it. But apart from that, Repanse is a good legendary lord. She doesn't appear at first to have any global bonuses. However, the game is kind of not being straightforward with you. If you have a look at Champion of the People, it says here, physical resistance, 5% for all peasant units. But what it isn't telling you there is that is actually faction-wide. So this will apply as well if you confederate Repanse. All of your peasant units will get 5% physical resistance, which I believe includes garrison units. We can see here that, I can't put my cursor over there, but you can see the physical resistance is there. So she's providing a fair bit of resistance to every single peasant unit faction-wide. So that's pretty handy. It's not clear in that tooltip there, because usually things that have a global bonus would say so. But she's a good fighter. She's only got a horse mount, which the other legendary lords, apart from the Fey Enchantress, they've got hippogriffs. But she's very strong on Suleiman, and she's got the Halo of Maidenly Wrath, which is very good. She's also a very good commander for whether or not you want to recruit knight units or peasants. She's very good. She also starts off with Henry Le Massive, which is a legendary hero or legendary paladin, that doesn't have any upkeep and is the only paladin in the game that's able to ride a hippogriff mount. So he's a very good mount to bring along. So Repanse's early game economy is pretty strong. You're actually able to field more than a full stack right off the get-go. And she's got a very strong campaign, and it's just pretty similar to the other Bretonnians, apart from it being focused on undead as opposed to greenskins and warriors of chaos. Overall, this is a campaign that I would recommend, and it is completely free. So give Repanse a go. I do think, though, that Bretonnia is in need of a bit of a rework for reasons that we've discovered in previous Bretonnian discussions. Anyway, that's the end of this one here, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Repanse's campaign. In terms of difficulty, I'd say play on any difficulty you want. It doesn't matter. It's a robust campaign for everyone, as long as you're interested in Bretonnian playstyle. At the end of this one, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.